WDWNT, the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news. This is ParksCenter. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of ParksCenter. Joining me on tonight's show, we have Allison. Allison, I think muted?
Hey, everyone.
There we go.
I'm unmuted now.
We have Jill.
Hello.
And Nathan.
Greetings from the Sunshine State.
And Rob.
Sivaco!
Hey.
I wasn't going to say it, but I'm representing for Pete, so I had to say it, right?
Someone has to.
Every week it has to happen. It's just tradition.
Mm-hmm.
All right, kicking things off. Speaking of tradition, good grief. We've been covering Galaxy's Edge at the top of this show for at least 2 weeks now. They keep coming out with more things. So we have the opening dates for these. We have May 31st, 2019 at the Disneyland Resort. We have August 29th, 2019 in Hollywood Studios. This is earlier than anticipated, but this is mainly due to the fact that one of the attractions won't be open with the land. It'll be kind of opening in two phases, with the Millennium Falcon attraction and the rest of the land being in phase 1 and Rise of the Resistance being in phase 2. Also of note here is the fact that FastPass Plus will not be initially offered for Rise of the Resistance attraction once it opens. I believe that this was also confirmed for Millennium Falcon for some period of time as well. So there is a lot of stuff going on with Galaxy's Edge.
I wonder if the Fast Pass thing has to do with not just dealing with the crowds, but also trying to deal with anticipated breakdown of the ride, knowing that if you've given out Fast Passes and now you have hundreds or thousands of people that are trying to get on the ride via Fast Pass, and the ride goes down unexpectedly because it's new and complicated, how they're going to deal with that and guest satisfaction. But also it's a smart way to deal with the crowds.
Yeah, I have no issue with the Fast Pass thing. I think what I have issue with is this idea that some people are kind of floating of oh well, isn't it so nice they're opening early? It's like what a nice thing that they are doing, and Disney of course is sort of playing that sort of hey, look at us, we're opening early, we're just one ride isn't ready yet. Which I've heard all I need to hear about they opened New Orleans Square without pirates. Yeah, that was 1,000 years ago too. So this thing is a big deal, and there's no way you can't convince me that Disney's whole plan here is not to just go, you went once, but you're going to have to come back again. Sorry, if you want to do it all. So the idea that this is going to stop or kind of curb attendance is nonsense. Those who want to see everything will come twice. And those that want to see everything in one fell swoop will wait until both rides are open.
Yeah.
If you think about it, this is a lot like Fantasyland Forest. I mean, they actually opened up Fantasyland Forest before the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train was open. They did that because they changed horses in midstream, but it was kind of a nightmare. And I feel like it was kind of took some of the air out of the whole launch of the land when they did that. They kind of had to do too little launches when they did it. I wonder if this isn't also just let's get it up and running. There's so many pieces to all of this that to get them all running at the same time is going to be a holy nightmare, because it's got to be. But to do it in phases, it's got to help them out and plus get people involved a little bit sooner. But it is, to me, a little disappointing that both rides won't be open when the thing opens. I'd almost, I'm desperate to get in and see it, but I'd almost rather it be a complete land when it opens up.
Yeah, so I only have two quick things to wrap up. I wonder how on time Pandora might have been if they didn't open it with Flight of Passage. But also, they're willing to move up the timing of this, probably because they don't have to worry about opening Rise of the Resistance now. And that kind of says to me, well, then how long is this going to take? If it was only going to be a matter of a month or so, I think they would have just waited, because it would have kept them in their expected time frame. So this makes me feel like this might take a while, well after Galaxy's Edge opens, for Rise of the Resistance to be up and running.
Yeah.
Kind of a Rivers of Light situation.
Oh,
Yeah,
God, I hope
Oh.
not that.
Like we're going to open this whole thing, but Rivers of Light might take a minute.
Let's hope it's less anticlimactic than that.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I hope
Give-
so.
give
I
it-
have put all the marbles in this, or all of my eggs in this basket for Rise of the Resistance to be the best thing that has ever happened ever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I will
Yeah, and
gladly
I mean,
fan
really,
rant
that's-
about that attraction during the post-show, folks.
If
For
this
sure.
ride is worth it, people won't care that they have to wait extra long to get it. That's what it comes down to.
Speaking of
Yeah.
things that we hope that Disney's hoping people won't care about, there was a price hike. It got worse. So we thought that this might be happening at the end of the year, but it has happened now. A one-day ticket during the Christmas week peak period is now $159 in 2019, which is a new all-time high. It was $129 in 2018. This is kind of absurd. I mean, granted, that's Christmas week. It's one of the most busy times in the park, but a $30, a 23% increase on ticket prices. My goodness, what? We're talking about money grabs in the chat. Keeping an eye on that for people were talking about it during Galaxy's Edge discussion. This is just a blatant money grab, plain and simple, and I'm kind of appalled by this.
It's a
I
ton
don't know.
of money.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think we saw this coming. Like, I think we knew they were going to jack up prices before Star Wars. So to me, this is not terribly a surprise. And if you look at it, Star Wars in Disneyland and Star Wars in Disney World are about 3 months apart. Well, not quite 3 months ago, they jacked up prices in Disneyland. So I feel
Yeah.
like this is on par. You know, they switched to the new pricing structure with the, you know, you have to pick certain dates and all of that, those changes that they made not too long ago. And now this is a revision of that pricing structure before Galaxy's Edge, which is, I think, what we all thought was going to happen. I didn't maybe expect the price change to take effect quite so soon, but I think to have thought that they weren't going to raise prices in conjunction with Galaxy's Edge, I think we all knew that was going to happen.
Oh yeah, 100% agree with you there. Like this is definitely easy to predict. It's just why in the middle of the year like this is just kind of astonishing to me.
Especially when
People
none
are
of it's
rushing to
open.
buy tickets right now.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean that's the main thing. Is now that we have dates, there's no way they're not going to raise the prices now. My thing too has always been, who in the world thinks it's a good idea at Christmas time to go to Disney? Like
Yep.
a lot of this peak pricing stuff. I once you're there in your AP and you're there kind of quite frequently, you sort of go, why do you people show up on spring break? And I know that there are logistics to those reasons, but I think they wouldn't be able to sort of pull this kind of stuff, or at least not at the peak times, if it wasn't for the fact that, you know, people keep this cycle of just these holidays coming at these times. I know it's like a big, like a really big picture, like, hey, world, change how you do things. So Disney pays less. But that's just a problem I have with the culture at large.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion. I think that we need to go back to the ticket system. Can we do that?
Hey.
The ticket, I mean, you know, because every time there's been a price hike recently, we've always kind of justified it by, well, they have to pay for Shanghai, or they have to pay for the raises, or they have to pay for Galaxy's Edge. I feel like we've already seen we have to pay for Galaxy's Edge price hikes, but maybe not. And, you know, to Nathan's point, I mean, they're going to do the price hikes because the parks are opening up. These lands are opening up, and it's Christmas, and they can get the money. And, you know, are they doing it to try to like hedge attendance? Maybe, but I think it's really more of like people will pay that price point to be there at Christmas.
I want to go in depth in the post show about why I think tickets are a terrible idea, but we'll get into it.
Let's do it.
Nice. All right, moving from there over to Hollywood Studios. Muppets had a sad thing happen.
It's like a headline you could do almost any month.
Yeah.
Matthew
Sad
Silverman
thing
is
happened
crying
at Disney
right
World,
now
film
somewhere.
at 11. Look at the side of that building. Like it's just look at what it used to be, and look at what it is now.
It looks so grand now.
That was a
Oh.
terrible pun.
If only it
And
was
you
on an
deserve
anime.
to be shot for that.
But with a banana pie. Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inappropriate.
Needs more sugar.
Yeah. I mean, this is like it's already
Yep.
like kill it. Like if you're gonna kill it, kill it. Like
Yeah.
stop changing the now it's the something theater just showing the Muppets and we'll just repaint this and look, if you're gonna kill the Muppets, even though they keep talking about this Disney streaming service show, kill the Muppets. Instead though, I think they should have like embraced this whole concept and they should do a new show and rotate that with the old one because I think we should keep the old one in rotation. It's Jim Henson's last thing ever. And do holiday shows. So, like really do stuff with it. If you Disney are bored with it or you think it's a whatever, like do something that is Muppets. We love Muppets. I don't know why it's such a problem. The one thing I know it'll always be a theater space there because they need things to suck in crowds, especially with Star Wars being literally right next to it. So it'll always be something, and I don't think they'll change it out anytime soon because Star Wars is a draw and they don't have the time to like figure something out and close that. So it's safe for now, but not forever.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I would say we saw it go in Disney's California Adventure. I mean, it was the theater there was swapped out for every preview that we usually have at One Man's Dream on the East Coast. They would do them there. And then it became the Frozen Sing-Along Theater. And then now it's just like a Marvel preview theater, and it's not going to be Muppets anymore. To me, that's sad because I love the Muppets. We have all these concepts of what the Muppet Land was going to be back in the day before before Jim Henson passed. So the whole thing makes me very sad because I love the Muppets. It's always been something we've enjoyed doing. Taking away the character of that. I feel like they started that with Rizzo's, though. Like Rizzo's should have been so much more of that Muppets feel, and instead it was sort of like a joke of an Italian restaurant rather than a joke of the Muppets. So I think they set that standard early, and the fact that they were going to call it Muppets Courtyard made it sound like it was going to stick around, and then they call it Grand Avenue Park or whatever it's called now, and it does make it sound like it's not going to be long for this world. But they certainly could take that theater and change it into something Star Wars preview-ish, unfortunately, that would still eat those crowds up and would also replace the Muppets. But I would miss that greatly, and the fact that it's the only one left, at least here, I don't know. Is there one overseas? But it's the only one left here. It would be sad to see it go away forever.
Yeah, I would just say I think they're taking the wrong approach here. That what they should do if they want to control capacity in Galaxy's Edge is use the Muppets as a pre-show for Galaxy's Edge. So you can't enter Galaxy's Edge until you have watched the Muppets.
Oh my God.
Kind of like the Maelstrom used to be, where you had to watch that show before you could leave the.
Well, that was after.
Cool.
At Universe of Energy, you had to watch that bizarre movie before you got to ride and see the dinosaurs. Seas used to be like that. That's Disney tradition.
Just retheme it to Pigs in Space.
Yes.
That would be fantastic.
Yes,
close
please.
enough, right? That's Star Warsy.
All right, moving from there, out of the news section of the show into our March Madness special that we're doing for the second week in a row here. I believe we're going to do a recap next week as well once the bracket's over. But this week we get to talk about what happened last time and what we think is coming. So we've got the whole bracket up here. I'm pretty sure this first fight is going to be something we talk about at length. Be Our Guest versus Oasis Canteen. But if we just go down the list here, there were a lot of interesting fights. Does anybody want to bring anything up first to talk about?
I do. Can I do it?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Can I do
ahead.
it? Just
Go ahead,
because I tapped in for Pete tonight, and part of my tap in was to air something that he was wanting to talk about that I was as well. Is that in that first round, Josh definitely swayed the crowd. If you guys watch the show, he brought up Be Our Guest. He had a bad experience there recently. He talked about the price point of it, which is not wrong. I mean, it is a very expensive meal for a counter service meal. But I look at it this way: is that Be Our Guest restaurant and Oasis Canteen. If I was going to send somebody there who had never been there and said, do I want to send them to a place where they're going to stand outside in the heat and wait in line for a funnel cake? Or do I want to send them to a magical palace where they could have a meal where they sit down and enjoy it in a castle? That's where I'm going to send them. I mean, I think you can't not count in the ambiance of the Be Our Guest and the fact that you can have it at a lower price point, lunch and breakfast, than you would dinner. Because dinner is so expensive and so hard to get into, it makes it kind of accessible to more people. But again, when Josh went first, and he went in and he said, here's what I think. And you could hear the people go, yeah, I agree with Josh on this one. And, oh, he changed my mind on this one. There were one or two others where he wasn't able to do that. But that was definitely a big turning point for this one, losing a number 1 seat, losing to a number 16 funnel cake stand.
Oh my gosh, I called that. I called it last week on this show. I said that Oasis Canteen is going to UMBC this thing, and I was right.
And he quoted UMBC on it too.
Yeah, I heard that, and I was so glad.
UMBC as a verb, I really like that. Yeah, I think it showcased Josh's skills of persuasion for sure, but also it showcased that Be Our Guest has no business being a 1 seed. That's why he wasn't able to sway later down the line quite as easily. But right. I don't think a place that he made the point that you're buying breakfast for your family of 4 at $114 or whatever it is. It's really hard to justify that.
Yeah, and like to that point, and not okay. So I totally think that Josh maybe sort of unfairly swayed some votes there. But at the end of the day, the other thing to factor into it, to Rob's point about would you rather walk up to a funnel cake stand in the hot sun or go sit in a magical castle? But here's the difference. You go into both of those with a certain level of expectation. And I feel this way too, because my experience at Be Our Guest was pretty mediocre. And I looked at it as, I'm walking in here. First of all, we had a reservation, but we had to wait forever. Like the line started outside on the other side of the bridge for us to get in and order our food.
How long ago was that, Jill?
It was right after Be Our Guest opened.
Okay.
But here's the point to that too. We went in. It was an unpleasant experience getting in. The food was mediocre. Again, this was a while ago, but I've never gone back because I thought I paid a lot of money and suffered a very unpleasant experience. I don't want to go back. And that's what you don't want to happen at Disney. You don't want there to be this huge high level of expectation going in that doesn't get met, and then you're more disappointed than you would be by getting a funnel cake in the hot sun. Because getting a funnel cake in the hot sun, you know what you're getting and you get it, as opposed to you think you're getting this beautiful experience and it falls significantly short. You wasted a ton of time and you spent a ton of money.
Yep.
And to Jill's point, the food quality has deteriorated since she was there. So now you're not the food is worse. The service has always been bad. The ambiance, maybe it makes up for it. Probably does to win over a 16 seed, but there's a fair argument to be made here.
Well, and I think here's the thing. I think 95% of the time that's an accurate argument. The problem with Be Our Guest is it is now a focal point for any sort of family trip. They may only go once. The idea that they need returning customers to Be Our Guest, I don't think is true. I think there's enough people that they're going to go one time to Magic Kingdom and that's the stop. That's where we have to eat. And because of that, they can make the food cheap and they can curb all corners and go, well, hey, it's pretty in here, right? And everyone has already paid to get in there, so no one's gonna they'll go, yeah, okay. That's the only problem with Be Our Guest is it is in some ways sort of an aesthetic trap, and its beautifuln's in that way means it can be lazy. And I think I don't know if it deserves to lose to that, of course, but I don't think it would have gone another round.
No, see, but I do think, though, when you're talking about Be Our Guest, that you are talking about it's a higher price point, but kind of what we were comparing back when we were talking about the price hikes, they can get that price because of the demand, because of the experience that they offer there. So that, you know, there is a higher price point. You are paying for more than just what you get. But comparing these two, that's the part that bothers me a lot, is that whether you had an okay experience at Be Our Guest or whether you had a great one, and I've had both, honestly, at the restaurant. I've done breakfast, lunch, dinner. I've had okay experiences. I've never really had a bad one, but I've had okay experiences to really good experiences there. You know, whether that's the case or not, you're still comparing a funnel cake stand to this big experience. To me, and maybe it's just the fault of this particular bracket, but to me, you can't really compare those two. And it's kind of like saying, well, you know, no offense to Kings Island, but say Kings Island to Disney World. You know, it may not have been your best trip to Disney World, but it's still better than a trip to Kings Island. I really feel like, you know, when you're talking about the two, they just don't compare.
Here's what I'm curious about, because we don't got a lot of time left.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you guys have that are favorites that are still in? I'm big in. I really like Flame Tree. I don't think Flame Tree is going to make it like very long. I think it's an excellent deal, and it's one of the best places to eat for cheap at Animal Kingdom. So that's, for me, I like Flame Tree, and I hope it kind of keeps going on.
I like the Mara because, you know, that's one of my favorite hotel food courts is the Mara. I think they might have trash talked it a little bit, but the fact that it beat Columbia Harbor House, I thought was pretty interesting. You know, whether it can go much further than that against against Satuli, it's probably dead. But
yeah.
But I do like the Mara. It's going to be a shame to see that go. I wish it was paired up against Casey's Corner instead.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, Jill, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Casey's Corner advancing.
I could not understand. Like, so many of the arguments were like, well, sometimes you just want a hot dog. Like, okay, I've never been to Aristocrave, so I can't really talk about the quality, but I just, you know, I hate Casey's Corner, and I don't understand why anyone would want to subject themselves to that, much less argue that other people should subject themselves to that.
Here's the thing, though.
Even
without
if
a
you
doubt,
really want to... Go ahead,
Oh, I was going to say, without a doubt, it is the cheapest meal for two at Magic Kingdom. Like, you can get a foot long and share that thing, and there's enough fries for two. We've done it.
Okay,
My wife and I
not
have done
going
it
to
before.
argue that point, but that doesn't mean that it should win in a competition of restaurants.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's one plus.
Right.
I don't care how badly you want a hot dog. You don't want one that badly. Don't do it.
It's a trap.
It's like airport
even about the
sushi.
quality.
Like you may be craving sushi at the airport, but don't do it. Supermarket sushi, no.
Not some of them.
I'll say this: Publix down here,
Yes.
some good supermarket sushi.
Yes.
Wegmans up here has amazing.
Yes.
Like, they have legit sushi chefs.
I'm a little disappointed that Pizza Safari got swept. I mean, you guys may not like it, but again, my family, my wife and daughter would eat at Pizza Safari all the time. The fact that it just got 0, that surprised me a little bit. It did not surprise me, though, that Sunshine Seasons swept because, you know, like I said before, I've heard everyone on the panel talk about Sunshine Seasons before, so I feel like that one's got a good chance to make it to the Final Four.
Yeah. Hey, there's a reason that Sunshine Seasons has been around since forever.
Yeah, it's good. Like there's a really strong variety there.
Well, but Casey's have been around forever, and you hate Casey's.
Well,
so.
Yeah, but there's not really a variety of anything there. There's garbage and more garbage.
No, Casey's is more like it fills a need, which is to like give
someone an air-conditioned way to walk down Main Street.
To get cheap hot dogs and sit down. Like I am not arguing with the fact that it fills a need. I'm not saying Casey should close. I'm just saying I hate it and I avoid it like the plague.
Can I say I'm 100% behind Electric Umbrella going farther? There's nothing special about it beyond the fact that Electric Umbrella is some of the last work by Rolly Crump that he did. I think he was already retired as an Imagineer at that point, if I remember correctly. So for me, there's a bit of like, oh man, this is about as old school as it gets. And I don't know. I think we're going to lose it here soon. So Blaze is fine and it's better, but I don't know. Nostalgia. How much for you guys is nostalgia weighing in on this, opposed to like food
umbrella?
and aesthetics?
Yeah.
No, not just in general.
I think probably for me, because I'm not a counter service person generally, like I've eaten at very few of these places. I almost never eat at an electric umbrella. That's not how I prioritize. And a lot of it's Epcot festivals. Like I spend the day walking around eating from food.
We have already established that Jill and I are frou-frou.
Exactly.
I don't get to Disney as often as some annual pass holders who get to look down their nose at people who want to go on like Christmas or whatever. I don't have that option. So when I want to go to sit down. I want to go to the signature dining. I don't go to Disney to eat a hot dog from Casey's. I go to Disney to eat at California Grill or at Morimoto or at I'll eat at Deluxe Burger, but like even when we were there, well, I went because I knew Jason and Tom raved about how good it was. But like last time we were there, we had the option to go to wait in a long line to go to Blaze Pizza or go to Enzo's Hideaway, and we went to Enzo's Hideaway and had a great time.
That's because everyone can get into Enzo Hideaway
somewhere else.
Yeah,
you can go to Blaze Pizza in most cities.
Yep,
yeah, that's true too.
Nathan, you were asking about like how much does like nostalgia play into it? I feel like if nostalgia was a big deal to most, Pinocchio's Village House wouldn't have gotten swept. I think that it's about the food. At least it is to me, and I think you remember the last food you had there because again, comparing something like what was the one I was thinking of? ABC Commissary. Like, sometimes the food's good there and sometimes it's something completely different. So I think that, it's really about what the food is, at least to me, when you're going through all these and not necessarily the nostalgia. Because Pinocchio's Village House, if I'm not going through a good phase of food there, I can just walk through, take a look at it and keep walking through.
Yeah.
Although interestingly, like you could say the same thing about Cosmic Rays, that it's kind of all about the nostalgia and not at all about the food. So I was actually surprised that people on the panel were so heavily in favor of Cosmic Rays.
Yeah.
Because I've heard so many of them say the food there is terrible.
Yeah. I knew a few folks were going to definitely do it just for the animatronics in there, but that food is not anything exciting.
No.
And I would have picked ABC Commissary there because, again, I mean, the last food I had there was good. It's a good, cool place to hang out, like on a hot day. They swap out the ABC stars, like costumes that you can see. So if you're still like a fan of the old school Hollywood studios, you like seeing movie props and TV props and things like that. So, to me, Sunny Eclipse was a good thing when we were trying to keep the kids busy when they were little, but it's always so crowded in there. The tables are packed so hard in that room. And then the food is just kind of okay. It's I think what people typically think of when they think of park food.
It really is. Yep. All right, that is going to do it for this week's show. Thank you, folks, for joining us. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. If you did, please check out some of these other wonderful shows that WDWNT puts out. Come on, do it right.
Maybe. Dreamfinders is WDW News Today's podcast all about the creative culture surrounding Disney parks. Curious what it's like to read poetry about the Haunted Mansion? Well, we've talked to someone who has. How about what it takes to actually build a Disney castle? We've chatted with a guy who did just that. Authors, Imagineers, dancers, actors, photographers, filmmakers, and a whole lot more have all stopped by to chat about how Disney has inspired their artistic work. Dreamfinders. Episodes drop every other Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher.
Ride Rehab is the podcast of ridiculously reskinning, refurbishing, and even removing Disney attractions, shows, areas, and parks. Can we cram Star Wars or Marvel into anything else? Just listen and find out. Visit riderehab.com to start listening now. That's riderehab.com.
WDWNT Nerd Alert is the podcast that encompasses all things Marvel and Star Wars in a fun and entertaining format. On each episode, we take a look at the latest news, provide reviews for the latest feature films, inform you about what is going on in the comic book world, and discuss and debate original topics pertaining to the worlds of Marvel, Star Wars, and beyond. Find us on various podcast applications by searching for WDWNT Nerd Alert.
The WDW News Today podcast is the one that started them all. Join us for comprehensive history segments, heated debates, epic countdowns, and more from the Disney theme parks around the globe. Just search for WDW News Today in whatever podcast service you choose.
Last but certainly not least is WDWNT's premiere show, WDW News Tonight. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. for a live weekly audio and video show that combines the latest headlines, comedy, trending vacation topics, call-in games, and in-depth discussions to bring Disney fans a one-of-a-kind 2-hour program covering the Disney parks. If you can't catch the show live, you can always watch it later on YouTube or listen to it through your desired podcast service.
And of course, you can find ParksCenter here every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/WDWNT. Be sure to click that notification bell to get notified every time we go live. You can also subscribe to this in podcast form. Search for ParksCenter wherever fine podcasts are sold, and you should be able to find us relatively quickly. That is going to do it for this week's show, unless you are one of our WIGS members, in which case stay tuned for the post show, which is coming up right after this. If you're not a WIGS member, go check us out on patreon.com/WDWNT. For as little as $2 a month, you can get access to our post show, the post show for News Tonight, the entire podcast backlog, and a whole host of other benefits. So head on over and check that out if you haven't yet. It's patreon.com/WDWNT. All right, that's going to do it for this week. We will see you all next week.
Bum, bum, bum.